Hi, I'm Liv and welcome back to the Book Nook. So I filmed an attempt at this video yesterday and then I got all in my head about it, which completely defeated the object of the video. So I had a word with myself and we're trying again today. Black Lives Matter. If you have a problem with that statement, as it is a series of words, Black Lives Matter, then part of my instinct is to tell you to do one. But actually I hope that you stay and I hope that you listen and I hope you can push past that maybe kind of instinctive bit of you that gets your hackles up and doesn't want to be told off or lectured. And I hope this video can maybe be, I don't know, the start of sort of a source of learning and not patronising, and maybe you can consider which word in that sentence is the one you have the problem with and why. I should have done this video sooner. I don't consider myself to have been silent in the days and weeks since the murder of George Floyd, but because I've been sharing and listening and engaging on Twitter and Instagram and things like that. But I do acknowledge that while I don't sort of necessarily consider myself to have a platform, because that feels like big and loaded and proper and for proper people, maybe I have like a ledge, I can't deny that I do make videos about books for the internet, and I put them up and people watch those videos, and by some crazy fluke of circumstance people seem to like and respect those opinions on books. So this platform, ledge, I have to accept a modicum of responsibility to speak, to not be silent. To anyone watching this who comes from Facebook, who is likely like family or old friends or acquaintances, like, I know this is weird for me too, me talking about having a platform. Anyway, now I can give an explanation that for, you know, the last 10 days I've had a trapped nerve in my back and I've only really been able to sit up without being in agony for the last 24 hours, but that wouldn't be the whole truth of why I haven't filmed this video yet, if I'm honest with myself. Fear of the line between real allyship and performative allyship, for one. I've read, well, loads of interesting articles over the last 14 days, but in particular two by Yomi, Adegoke and Holliday, Phillips, about a pervasive kind of Pics or it didn't happen approach to activism or and performative allyship. And I was reading those while I was sort of thinking of making a video, so I got in my head about whether making any video like this would be simply that, sort of proving that I was taking this seriously, or if it was the beginning of real committed allyship. And I guess only I can know that, and each of us as individuals can only know that what we start doing now, whether it's the beginning of something or whether it's just performative, and my intention will be borne out, and I guess the proof will be in the pudding, I guess is what I'm saying, sort of prejudging what I do now by what it might look like, rather than promising myself and the black community, non-black people of colour, queer community, that this is a first step, the beginning of a commitment. I guess that's my truth to know. And the same thoughts and fears might be getting in your head a bit too, and I think that's okay to be worrying about whether what you're doing now is performative or not. But if you can commit to yourself that this is the first step, and this is you waking up too late but starting, then that's a start. I've said start too many times. So that got in the way of doing this a bit sooner, as did my discomfort at talking about this, about potentially getting it wrong, saying the wrong thing. But as I read in a couple of posts on Instagram, and the one I'm thinking of in particular came from like loads of different sources, so I'm not 100% on the original source, but it's in my Insta stories, we as white people have to normalise feeling uncomfortable. We're being asked to finally, again too late, and truthfully examine and confront things about our history and our present that we've been unable or unwilling to before now. It's going to sting, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but if the worst that we have to deal with is feeling a little bit hurt, or like we're being told off, or, you know, that we've got things wrong, i.e., you know, held to account, corrected, i.e., it's okay to be wrong, because if you're wrong, you can learn new things, yay! Then, if that's all we've got to worry about, then we've got it pretty good. So our collective discomfort is not a reason to stop fighting for justice. Yes, this video will be self-serving to a degree, because it does make me feel better to know that I've put my values out there. But as I say, I have got this little ledge, and so it's important that I bring to this ledge who I am and what I stand for, but I am 100% willing to be called out for getting it wrong, and if this comes across as performative and not the right thing, then fair enough. This video is, I guess, a declaration of a commitment to do better going forwards, to listen to black voices, to amplify black voices, to interrogate my complicity in a system that suppresses black voices. In terms of the Booktube community, for me, that means, firstly as a viewer, split these things, as a viewer, It means actually seeking out and engaging with Black creators more than I have been. I think I've said before on my return to Booktube, I've never fully engaged with Booktube as a whole community as much as I should have done, because there was always this disconnect between sort of, if I fully engage then that means I'm a proper booktuber, and I don't really feel like I'm a proper booktuber, so I sort of held back from that. But I can use that as an excuse as much as I want, and I could extend that to why I haven't engaged with Black creators, but it's just an excuse and it's not good enough. It's about thinking as viewers, who do we subscribe to and how many of those are white? And how many of those that we subscribe to that we actually then actively watch their videos and follow and engage with their content, how many of those people are white? Ask those questions of yourselves. And I do realise now, as I'm saying this, that I am framing it as looking at how many of them are white. I'm centralising whiteness rather than blackness or non-black people of colour. But it's those questions you have to ask. Look at who you're subscribed to. Look at the creators whose content you engage with and consume. Is it just the same voices? And it's not about tokenism, as I think like people would claim that seeking out Black creators intentionally because I've realised I don't follow enough of them might be tokenism. It's about realising how ridiculous it is that when I read a book by a Black author about Black experience, the only people I listen to about their thoughts on that book are other white people. It's about realising that by not seeking out Black creators, we are adding to the shit show that is YouTube algorithms, that therefore contributes to a system that doesn't lift up Black voices because it thinks through algorithms and things, because it thinks that no one is interested in what these Black voices have to say about books, about other content. And as I say, I'm very narrowly talking about Booktube, but it applies to wider YouTube creators and things as well, of course. And also, it just denies yourself a new perspective on things, a perspective on things that isn't centred on whiteness and on your experience. It gives you those new perspective and those new voices of experiences that you could not imagine and you have not lived, and those reflections on books. And it's ridiculous to not engage with that. As a Booktube creator, I think it's about being mindful of what books we're reading, what perspectives we're taking on board, and when we're recommending, what are we saying about a book? When we're reviewing it or talking about a book, where are we coming from? And more importantly, it's about then listening to Black creators on what they have to say about what we have to say, kind of thing. Not being defensive if someone criticises us for what we've said. Respecting what they have to say, actually actively listening to what they say, not what we think they're saying, and not investing in how it makes us feel, but actually listening to what they say. And as I learn more, I'm going to say more, to amplify the voices of those that I and likely you haven't heard. I'm going to talk about this more because, as I say, I'm making a commitment that Black Lives Matter, and that this isn't a gimmick, it's not just a moment, it's not a trendy zeitgeist box ticking right on woke PC performative shitty thing. Shitty as in all of those things would be shitty. It's people's lives, the history that they've been denied through inaccurate representation in history, for one, the futures that they've been denied through, both through disproportionate police brutality and all these socioeconomic factors that disproportionately affect Black communities and expose them to more risks from pretty much everything. I've been an alright ally thus far in my life, I guess. As a person, I don't think I've ever been intentionally racist. In Booktube terms, I've talked about books on this channel but by Black authors, but that's not enough, and that's not a pat on the back. It's not enough to not be racist. That's the absolute fucking bare minimum. You have to be anti-racist, we have to be anti-racist, and we have to learn how to do that. This is a commitment to do better, to unlearn behaviours and learn new behaviours, to listen to Black voices, to learn to get things wrong and be corrected and be okay with that, be okay with being pulled up. People know things more than I do. I'm going to take that knowledge on board, to welcome that, and to talk to other white people about things that I've learned and share with them challenges to their ways of thinking and challenges to their bias and challenge the accepted kind of wisdom of things that they do and yeah, to do better. Any of you who watch regularly will know that I've been, sort of talking and thinking for a while now about making videos on other non-bookish topics that are important to me, or that I can, if not actively add to a conversation about something, and I guess that's more kind of belief in myself, but maybe bring together some threads of stuff. So yeah, this will come up again because it's important and it's a commitment. For me, I'm not going to do just this one video on Black Lives Matter and anything related and be like, oh yeah, cool, done that now. I've proved to people watching that I'm anti-racist and go back to normal now. We all have to make a commitment to a fundamental change that will inevitably get wrong, but we have to try. Keep trying, try again. And I'm not going to never talk about this again because I'm scared of looking woke or whatever, because that feeds into a system that says I'll stay silent because I'm not qualified, or I'm scared of what it might look like, or I'm scared of getting it wrong, so I'm never going to talk about it again. But that means I'm never going to lift black voices, never going to speak up for what's right, so I'm not going to do that. I would say I've been not racist for my whole life, but I don't get a pass for that. None of us do. I don't get to talk about my guilt for hours and hours because that's not productive. I have to be anti-racist, and if that rings true for you as well, then that's the first step. So let's keep going. It's not the job of black people or non-black people of colour or the queer community or anybody of an oppressed or disadvantaged community to educate us. It's not their responsibility, it's not their job. I mean, they have been trying for decades and we haven't been listening. And we don't get to now slide into people's DMs or comments asking them, how do we do this? Like, it's our job. We have to educate ourselves. We listen to the people who are speaking and really listen to them. As I've said before, listen to what they're actually saying, not what we think they're saying. I've just realised I've done a slightly Boris Johnson-y hand movement and I hate myself for it, so I'm going to not do that ever again. Listen to people who are speaking, really listen to them, and then go and do our own research as well. There's an expectation, I think, among most white people that information should come to us. If it's important, tell us. You know, that we should be spoon-fed important stuff, and that's just so lazy and privileged and laughable, and we have to do better. The information is out there. There are hundreds of books that you can read. Talking more specifically to the bookish community, there are hundreds of books you can read, and I thought about doing a list of them in this video or highlighting some, but again, I can do that in the future because this isn't just a one-off. This isn't just a here are some books, go away and read them and I'm never going to talk about them again. I want to make a commitment to regularly highlight books. I will post links in the description to some reading lists that I have found helpful as jumping off points, and also of other resources, links to petitions and causes that need donations, as well as various other documents that I found really sort of helpful and enlightening, and some that I found challenging, some that have made me rethink. But as I say, use those as a jumping off point. They are not definitive lists, they're not the be all and end all. Engage. I'm not going to stop doing my regularly scheduled programming, as if I've ever done regularly scheduled anything, because that would be false and that would be performative, but I'm going to honour my commitment to do better going forward in all the aspects I've talked about. The article I mentioned by Holliday Phillips mentioned about, you know, posting sort of Black Lives Matter related content on your feeds, and then also posting sort of regular things going on in your life, and that can feel like you're not fully engaging, and I agree with that to an extent. I do, and it's important not to just, as I say, use this as a trendy thing, but I'm not gonna not do the things that I normally do. I want to just bring this larger awareness to those things that I do and to my life, if that makes sense. This video is already longer than I intended it to be, and I've repeated myself and repeated other people who can say things a lot better, and there is a lot more that I want to say and could say, and I had notes written down to say, but as I say, more videos going forward. But in this particular video, you know what, right now, in this moment, nobody needs another hour-long video from a white girl with feelings about racism. That's not contributing to the discussion in a meaningful way. What this moment needs is for all of us to make that commitment to anti-racism, to learning and listening, to challenging views that run contrary to Black Lives Matter, a commitment to Black lives. And if you're an All Lives Matter camp type person, A, talk about that in the future, but B, all lives can't matter if Black lives don't matter. So we have to make sure they matter and commit to living like this after the protests are out the headlines, because this is people's lives. As I say, this feels weird making it. I know I'm going to have probably said some things wrong, said some things in here that people won't agree with. Perhaps even doing this video is wrong or comes from the wrong intention, but I'd like to think it comes from the right place. And as I say, this commitment to change, to learning, is the crux of this. I'm gonna go for a gentle walk this afternoon to hopefully get my mostly better back moving. Hopefully it won't give out and leave me stranded in a field. So keep safe, keep well, keep learning, and keep listening. Be okay with being challenged on your views or your assumptions or anything you say. Be respectful and open to these conversations. They are important. They are important because they're difficult, and they're difficult because they're important. Check out some of the links in the description, but as I say, please go further. I am a jumping off point. I'm not who you need to be listening to. It's great if you are listening to me and you can get something from it and go off in those better directions, but do more. Commit. I don't know how to end this, but when do I ever know how to end a video? Oh, no. Commit to fundamental, meaningful, evolving change. Commit to examining your white privilege in whatever form that manifests. Commit to challenging your assumptions about history. Commit to listening to the people that have been trying to speak and trying to get our attention for so many decades now, and need our support in a meaningful way. Commit to doing that. Don't treat this as, don't forget about this in a week's time, because the black communities who live this every day don't have a choice. They don't get to forget about this. They don't get to just post on Instagram for a week and then go back to normal. This is their normal. Fear of police brutality, fear of systemic racism. I never know whether it's systematic or systemic. Can somebody please tell me that? This is the lived reality of so many people. For us to have to listen and maybe feel a bit uncomfortable, it ain't hard for us. So we have to commit. Right, let's try and not have my back go out in the middle of a field. And I'll see you again soon.